Hi everyone, Paul here from FamilyWheels.ca, and this week a car I was never really expecting to test on this channel with you, not exactly family friendly, but when the folks from Glenmore Audi told me that I could take the new Audi R8 out for a test drive, I told them I'd have to turn it into a video for you guys as well. So here we are. This is a vehicle that's been in the company's lineup since 2006, redesigned for 2017, and now crazier than ever with a standard V10 engine on board. You can also bump this into the V10 Plus version, which gives you more horsepower. It's nuttier than even this version is, and that's the amazing thing about this car, is that it's a bit of a dying breed. This V10 is naturally aspirated, no turbo, no supercharger, no hybrid system. It's just raw power. Now I'm kind of done just standing here talking about it with you. I want to get into this thing. We're going to meet up with LJ Morgan. He's the lead performance sales guy at Glenmore Audi. Hit some country roads and see how this thing really does. I am super excited to be here with you this week. It's the new R8 this week on Family Wheels. Can you just break down the numbers for us?
Sure.
In terms of, you know, number of horsepower, 0 to 100 times, all the figures that people are going to be wondering about with this car.
So 2017 R8 V10, this is not the Plus version, so this is 540 horsepower, 398 foot-pounds of torque. Does 0 to 60 in right around the 3-second mark, so it's quick.
Talk to me about the V10 versus the V10 Plus. What are the big differences?
Biggest difference is engine tuning for one thing. You're talking about 540 horsepower in this version versus 610 in the Plus version. The Plus is, you know, got quite a bit more carbon fiber on it, is a lot more track oriented. One to obviously have the mechanical rear spoiler that's on this one versus the full carbon fiber that's on the V10 Plus that's really track oriented and meant to create a ton of downforce. So, you know, there's quite a few differences to the two cars. Transmission mapping is completely different in them. Their intakes are different. Their cranks are a little bit different. So the other one is definitely meant to be more GT, and the other one's a little bit more track.
So does that mean that this car, the V10, not the V10 Plus, is actually going to be a better road car in terms of manners for everyday driving?
I would say that they're both really similar. You know, in terms of commuting every day, I've got a good buddy of mine that has a V10 Plus, and he drives his to the gas station to get milk. Like, I mean, you know, they're both everyday usable. That's kind of what Audi's engineered them to do. You know, I would say on a long drive, would you find that, you know, the V10's a little bit nicer to live with just because it's a little bit quieter, it's a little bit more docile? Sure, but, you know, who doesn't want 610 horsepower? So.
No kidding. Now, you say that this is sort of an everyday, it can be an everyday car for people.
Yep.
One thing that Audi's got on board, like we'd see in so many other Audis, is Quattro all-wheel drive.
Right.
So how is Quattro different in this vehicle versus Quattro that we'd see in another more sort of like typical everyday Audi?
So this is a new version of what, you know, the world knows as Haldex, but what Audi has internally named their multi-plate clutch system. This is what they call a fully variable Quattro system. So right now, as we're driving, it is in 100% rear wheel drive. The car sits at that as a default, and will run in that until it really needs to engage the Quattro system. And then obviously when you're launching it, or you're you know, you're really spirited driving, it's going to go into more of an all-wheel drive system setup, unless you click your lovely little checkered flag button on your steering wheel, and then that unlocks the performance mode. And when it's in performance dry, it is 100% rear-wheel drive.
So, because this is an all-wheel drive vehicle, can it be used year-round? Have you heard of people using this thing in the wintertime?
We have, just like you see with some of your 911 customers, like your C4S, your turbo customers. We do have customers that are crazy enough to drive their R8s in the winter.
So I mean, you talk about Lamborghini, a sister company to Audi. When we compare this to something like the Huracan, which is, coming in like about $100,000 more.
Yep.
But, it's got a naturally aspirated engine too. It's, got that same sort of parent company. So what kind of DNA does this share with the Huracan?
Well, I mean, really, Audi was involved in the engineering of the Huracan right from day one, because they knew that there was a new R8 that was going to have to debut at some point, and Audi actually built a bigger, more expanded R8 plant at the Neckarsulm factory specifically for the R8. And the interesting thing is that all the initial assembly for the Huracan is done in that same factory. So all of the chassis, all of the body work, so the paint, all of that kind of stuff is done there. The engine that's behind us was also developed by Audi. Lamborghini only solely develops the V12 that they use in the Aventador. They do not. This is an engine that Audi develops. It's hand built by Audi, and then they basically put a different head on it that says Lamborghini versus the one that says Audi. From there are some differences. There's some differences in transmission tuning and all-wheel drive tuning, and Audi actually puts a lesser tire on this car just to hold it back a little bit from the Huracan.
So it won't feel quite so mad.
Exactly, and it's interesting because there's some tracks out there where the R8 with the Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tire has actually turned a faster time than the V10 Plus has turned a faster time than the standard Huracan. So.
What I find interesting about the Huracan and this car is that in this era of turbochargers, superchargers, even hybrid assist systems. Yep. Even Audi's putting turbochargers into a lot of its performance vehicles now.
Yep.
So why stick with a naturally aspirated engine in this latest 2017 edition of this car?
I think the big reason is it's that motorsports DNA. It's something about a high revving, screaming engine that is so pure to motorsports. And you even take this engine, it revs to just south of 9,000 RPM.
Yeah, it's like motorcycle revs, right?
Right?
Yeah.
So, you think you've got, a V10 that's revving to almost 9,000 RPM in a street car.
Well, you talk about that sort of purity of driving, and one of the things that was really well liked in the previous generation of the R8 was that really clunky mechanical gearbox, the manual gearbox.
Yep.
And Audi went away from that for the latest generation. They've gone to strictly a dual clutch.
Right.
What happened?
Well, definitely, a dual clutch is anybody can drive it.
Yeah.
And there certainly is a lot more performance to it. You don't get 2.6 seconds 0 to 60 times in the V10 Plus R8 without a dual clutch transmission, because I don't think that Tom Christensen or Alan McNish or
no one's keeping up with
any of those guys in a manual transmission is going to get to that point. So a lot of it is performance. A lot of it is that people who buy these cars like the idea of being as close to what the race car is like. And with this generation of the R8, I believe it's almost 85% of the parts are shared with the GT3 Le Mans car, and the transmission's very, very similar. It's one of those things where they tried to keep this car as close to motorsport as possible. And the R8's sweet gated 6-speed transmission was unbelievable, and the reviews on it were phenomenal, whether it was mated to the V8 or it was mated to the V10. But the take rate was so low. Forward movement is killing it.
Progress.
Right? So, yeah.
Hey, I have to say, I am thrilled. We've been stuck behind a junky old SUV with the left turn signal on for about 20 minutes now.
Yeah.
He just turned off.
So I think we should put the rear window down so you can really hear it.
All right.
You should maybe downshift a couple times and then give her. And there's why you have a naturally aspirated V10.
It just picks up, right? There's no delay whatsoever.
This engine is infinitely more powerful and capable than the old one was. So it's, you know, even though the power numbers are really similar, if you drove them back to back, they don't feel alike at all.
Totally different car.
Yeah.
And the interior in here is so awesome too, because we've got a very simple dash with that epically good virtual cockpit right in front of the driver, which gives you everything you need. So talk to me through that. Talk me through what Audi's done with the interior here.
So Audi's always been really well known for their ergonomics and the layout of their interiors, and I mean probably the majority of the awards Audi's won in, you know, since probably the late 90s have been for their interiors and their switchgear and all of that. And Audi moved to this new form of, you know what, let's declutter, let's simplify. You know, if we can make one button do two things and make it do it easily, let's do that rather than having two buttons to do two things. So yeah, this is a car that, you know, hubby and wife can totally take on a road trip down to, you know, Vegas, or, you know, do it out to the coast in Vancouver or Kelowna or something like that, and it'd be really comfortable on a long trip. But it really is focused on the driver.
Now we talk about road tripping, but you're not going to be packing much.
No, unfortunately, the Spyder definitely gives up some space to the coupe for sure. I mean, right behind us, I mean, you would have space. I mean, for certain size golf bags that are out there that will fit behind the seats there, and you know there is. Yep. Yeah. I mean, in the Spyder, you give a lot of that up to make room for the top. So definitely you're focusing on what's going on, you know, in your frunk, so to speak.
The frunk, yeah. And which fits my camera bag. And that's pretty much about it. Yeah.
I mean, you could definitely get a good size, I would say, roller bag, like your typical carry-on bag in there, and say like a duffel bag. But you definitely, you know, everything in this car is about weight distribution and all of those kinds of things. So your battery's taking up a ton of the room that's in the front of this car. So unfortunately, you don't have a ton of room. But
comes down to performance, right?
Yeah, you can just keep driving along and just downshifting it just to let it do that. So the other thing that's pretty cool is the virtual cockpit. When you're in manual mode and you're in a performance mode like this, we'll actually show you where the optimal shift points are. So I'll just show you here. It'll go, of course, so green, yellow, and then if you go far enough, it'll actually go into a red, and that's where it's starting to back off a little bit of the power. So green is where they're saying foot down, track mode, most optimal place to shift. If you happen to botch a shift, then at least you got a little bit of that yellow zone to not kill the car. So, but it's, man, if I got the Spyder, I'd be driving around with that window open all the time.
Full time.
So.
Well, I am just flabbergasted about this car. It sounds so good. It feels so good. It corners so well. Yet we have heated seats. We have a really good sound system. We have that amazing virtual cockpit on board. We have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, for goodness sake. It's a vehicle that has all of those things, yet manages to feel really special. If we compare this to something like a Porsche 911, I love those cars. When one drives past me, I'm looking, for sure. But my life goes on. I kind of continue on with the day. When one of these drives by, it's like I've just seen the Batmobile. It's so cool. Not a family vehicle, but I feel like I'm going to start saving up my pennies here, because I think I've fallen in love here this week. Next time I see you, we're in a bit more of a traditional family car. We're back into the Volkswagen Tiguan. It's new for 2018, totally redesigned. People have been asking for this one, so check that out in about 7 days from now. And until then, I'm going to try and get a few more K out of this thing before I have to hand the keys back. Thanks for tuning in.